Hello everyone, GM. Welcome to the Solfate Podcast, where we have conversations with builders and founders in the Solana ecosystem. Welcome to the episode. This was a great one. We had Nick, one of the co-founders of SolanaFM, fellow Nick DAO member. It was a great episode.
He's actually, I think, my new favorite character in the Solana ecosystem.
Yeah,
so
he's awesome.
There's that.
This is my first time ever talking to him like in person, or like virtually, I guess. And he's a full character, like very passionate, and like it was super cool. Like if you don't already know, Solana FM, they're a block explorer, right? You know, it's block explorer, pretty standard, but
like
they've got some
really
cool
good
stuff
one,
coming. A really good one, like the
and,
UI
and
like
they've
how
got some new stuff. Yeah. It was pretty sick. And you know, we got a history lesson on Singapore at the start. That was pretty dope.
That's true. That was awesome.
Got a ton of background on Nick, which was sweet. I had a blast. In fact, like I think he should be a regular on the show. We just bring him on for like random topics here and there.
Yeah, it was great. He not only shared like his history of becoming a developer, getting into Solana, and like how Solana FM was started as basically an indexer, and then they started displaying data. But he also gave some alpha of the new version of Solana FM and some of the stuff. We've got screen shares.
We
of
even
the new version.
got the screen share.
Screen shares. This is going to be great.
Yeah, it's pretty dope.
Yeah, there's you should
absolutely listen.
All right, let's just dive right in. We've given the teaser. Nothing in this podcast is or should be considered financial advice. Any opinions and thoughts expressed are solely those of the individual. They do not represent the opinions of any entity. Enjoy.
Yeah, are you in Singapore, Nicholas?
Yeah. Okay. The entire team is based in Singapore as well. Actually, most of us are Singaporeans. So if we're not, we're probably from Malaysia or something like that. So it's just around the corner, just Southeast Asia generally. So have you guys been there?
I've never been,
Sadly,
but it is on my bucket
though.
List.
Yeah.
I feel like Singapore is this like small little powerhouse in the world. How did that happen? Singapore is everywhere, I feel like.
I think a very weird analogy to put it, because it's pretty hard to get everyone to relate internally in a 6 million population city when you have like 6 billion people in the world. So it's like 0.06% or 0.6%, I guess. Yeah. So, 0.1%. Sorry. So yeah. I think to put things into perspective, I would say it's kind of like Solana in like the very early days, and oh boy, I'm gonna get fired like mad at this. Like I'm feeling it, man. So it's like, you know, back in the days when Solana was like barely a year old in mainnet, Foundation was just pushing a lot of grants, getting the entire ecosystem to get a couple of things up, like infrastructure tooling. You got DeFi, you got NFTs, you got many various other types of categories of projects. So same problem with Singapore as well. So I think at that point in time, the military was just completely filled by the British, and the British were about to leave. So yeah, the government decided to start mandatory military conscription. And then you got things like, I think because we are a very small nation, you don't generally have a lot of, you actually don't have any natural resources. So the huge focus was put just into trade, because, you know, the country is positioned in a very well put position for seafair trading. So I guess that was how things work. The government kind of focused on, oh, okay, look, we're positioned in a very nice geographical location for trade. Let's just do trade. And I think the rest is just history. I think a lot of people worship him. I don't necessarily worship him, but I respect him a lot. He's the founding prime minister. So yeah, he really did a lot of stuff. Like, I can't say much. I think thanks to him, I have the education I have today. So yeah, I think that's how Singapore came about.
That's actually pretty cool. We got a fun little history
lesson there. I love it.
Yeah, but yeah, it really felt like Solana in the early days, because a lot of things needed some kickstarting, and yeah, the government just funded everything they can do in their best abilities. Of course, not in a, you know, biased way. Like they try their best to be as just as possible. As you know, like for us, like I'm not sure if it's externally viewed the same way, but yeah, it's multiracial. So yeah, we try our best to be very fair.
Nice. So what's tell us about yourself. Like, you know, what's your background pre Solana days? How do we get into Solana?
Let's get the full story.
I mean, it's like we already started with a history lesson, so let's continue the history, talking about you, Solana FM, how it all came about.
So it's actually a very huge story, long story. So I was actually exposed to the crypto back in 2014, 2015. It's been almost 10 years. So the exposure was just thanks to conventions. There were IT shows in Singapore every couple of months. So you would have like deals. I would say it's more similar to like, holy crap, you know, you got Best Buy. Oh, Micro Center, right? Yeah. So we don't have Micro Center in Singapore, but we do have like seasonal events like every quarter that replicates the prices that Micro Center can provide. So that's where I heard about Bitcoin, and I was like, oh wow, what's this nonsense? Like, is it some scam thing or something? Yeah, so I immediately got on board it, and the first thing I found out about it was, oh, it's just magic internet money. I think this is a very common boring story that every single oldest guy in crypto would always share about. So I'm gonna spare the listeners some boredom away from here and just focus on where my journey really started as a builder. So I would say that's about 2017, 2018, when I think I got out of Microsoft. I was just there touching base on .NET Core. Not sure if you guys heard of .NET. I would assume you guys did. And .NET is like a closed source framework that's maintained by Microsoft. And I'm not sure why. They probably woke up on the wrong side of the bed and they were like saying, you know what, let's just rebuild the entire .NET framework from scratch and just build an open source one. So .NET Core, no. ASP.NET Core 1.0 was released in 2016, somewhere there. So I was like one of the first few devs building tools and stuff there. So that was how I started my developer career. And then subsequently, I think about 6 to like 10 months, I decided maybe huge, like big tech firms are kind of not my thing. So I was just looking around, just attending crypto events. It's actually crazy because while the entire like journey of like going to big tech firms was going on and about, I was always with a close knit of like friends, like nerds. We were like always playing like, hey Nick, do you know like Zcoin? Have you heard of Monero? Do you know that you can mine with your machine? You can mine like 5 Monero a day. You can mine like 5 Monero a month, something like that. That's unheard of today, right? But back in those days, it's so easy. Like you could just mine some random coin and just pray Hail Mary in 2 years, and you probably could make like 5 figures. So that's what we did. So we always tinker around things, and so I was like, let's just try attending some events like Ethereum Singapore and a couple of other basically close-knit crypto communities, and then I found a job there. I met a couple of great people. I met most of the co-founders that I established today. So you have CoinGecko, you have CoinHako, you have Etherscan. So CoinHako is a Coinbase in Singapore. It's primarily covering Southeast Asia, and then you also have actually many more. So I also met the CoinMarketCap co-founders and a couple of others in Southeast Asia and Asia as well. So it's just a very bright old day. And I think fast forward like a couple of months later, like 3 or 4 months, I started interning at CoinHako. So it was I was just really lucky. I lucked out and got a chance to work there. So I worked there for about a year plus before I conscripted to national service, because it's compulsory national service for every able-bodied man for 2 years. And then while I was still serving, I was still working as well in the space. And while I was working in the space, I think in 2019, Binance came about. Binance got really popular, and there was something called Binance Fair in Singapore. So prior to Binance heading to Dubai, I was just attending every single huge event I had there. And, like they were partnering with one big ass company.
Oh, little Alameda research over there.
So this I got this.
He brought props.
No, I didn't.
What is that?
Oh, it's just a travel adapter, and
okay.
It's just plain coincidence. Like I was just clearing up my desk.
I'm just saying for the listeners, he held up a travel adapter at the screen, but it has a name on it. It says Alameda Research. So for those listening who aren't watching the video, that's what he held up.
It's crazy. So back in those days, I guess you guys would have heard like. You'd get like random ass merch. You get like travel adapters. You get, I mean, you still get it today, but you get it much easier last time. So it's just crap ton of other types of merch. So that was my entire journey in crypto. Like just being a software engineer, just hopping around, just focus on like centralized exchanges and brokerages, and then maybe exploring a bit of like peer-to-peer exchanges here and there for like 6 months to about a year. And then, I completely just shadowed away for a while and then looked around several chains. And I was like, you know what? I think it's pretty interesting to write smart contracts. You know, I should give it a shot. And then I held myself away. And this is something that I really hope the listeners do take this very seriously, which is back when I was considering building smart contracts, writing smart contracts, I was 23 years old. And I thought to myself, I've been a software engineer in my entire career. Like for that point in time, it's not long, right? But I was like, you know what? It just didn't make sense building a DeFi protocol. It just didn't make sense building a lending protocol. Like you're just a kid. Would think about it. Like would the banking sector trust all of their money to you? Like it just wouldn't make sense. So in my head, I was like, you know what? It made complete sense not to touch it. Maybe try understanding data, how data moves and transports across nodes, how nodes sync up, and holy shit, how do these nodes communicate with each other? It's pretty interesting. So yeah, that's how generally my journey was.
Nice.
Yeah.
So at what point did Solana play into this?
Great. I was actually waiting for the question before I hopped on. Yeah, so sorry for being so long-winded. But yeah, I'm still. I would say I cut a lot of my sharings already, but yeah, I get very long-winded sometimes. So anyway, so how it got about was I got into college about 2 years ago. So I'm actually 26 this year. I'm 24 when I started college. So I admitted into Singapore Management University, and I'm actually majoring in information systems. So back in those days, I think the community is still just trying to pick things up back together again because COVID just ended and everybody went back to school. So I met a couple of people there, like nice, bright, young, talented people, and one of them was my co-founder. His name is Fatu, and I also have another co-founder. He's my CTO. He's Bing. Bing is a funny chap because I've met him 7 years ago, and we've been working on hackathons and micro projects ever since, just doing mentoring and stuff like that. So that's probably the story of how the co-founders met. Nice. And what we had in mind was that in a funny little summer break, our very first summer break, I remember this very clearly. So after our first, was it after freshman? Yeah, it was after freshman. So after freshman, we decided, hey guys, it's April. We have about 4 months. School would begin again in August. So what are we going to do here? Are we going to travel or are we going to work on something stupid? So I was just saying, guys, hold up. There's this crazy ass Solana hackathon. Should we just try it out? And they were like saying, yeah, why not? We've got nothing to lose, right? So we went there and we started and we just sat there in school. So we would go to school every morning and we'd go to school at like 9 a.m. because all facilities in school are just open and free for us to use, even during holidays. So we said, okay, we'll come to school at 8 and we'll knock off at like 10 p.m. And let's just decide on an idea. And we took like a week to find out an idea and we couldn't find anything out. So I was like, you know what, guys, let's stop. Let's just do whatever the Solana guys want. So we looked at was there like an Excel sheet back then? Holy crap.
Probably,
yeah, there was an Excel sheet maintained by the foundation, and they said we need an indexer. So we're like, oh, that sounds so cool. What's an indexer? So we went to build it, and yeah, everything's history. So that's how it started. And by the way, so I think it was called the Solana Season Hackathon. I think it's the second hackathon hosted by the foundation.
I love that. I feel like so many of the conversations we have on this podcast, like someone's Solana journey or the start of their company started with a Solana hackathon.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like there, it's such a huge catalyst for things. I love that you also just like looked at what they were asking for. They just had like a list of like, we need people to build this, and you built it. So SolanaFM
Pro
started
tip, people
out
building
as,
things. If you build off a list, like those are things that people want to see. I'm just saying.
I mean, yeah, no, it's like
there's a list for a reason.
Does that list exist today? You're just like,
oh yeah, it exists for every hackathon publishes a list of here's ideas of things. I think the official quote unquote list for Hyperdrive was basically the super team build site of build.superteam.fun. There's a whole bunch of people that have just like collated a bunch of ideas there. But yeah,
exactly.
There's a list.
So this was like early Solana hackathon days, and you guys built an indexer. How did it go? It's like what you've given us so far is that you guys were working your tail off all summer, 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. daily, and that you built an indexer. So like when it came to submit the indexer, like submit the project, what was the result? What did you get from that? What sort of made you continue to work on it? How did it evolve into an explorer?
So I think let's just start by the team. I think the focus that I think all founders should have is to never focus on the negatives, to always focus on the positives. So we first looked at the entire drawing board, which is we have 4 team members. We have a 4th team member, but he was just joining us for this hackathon. So, okay, look, we have 2 guys. 2 guys are non-technical and 2 guys are technical, but the 2 non-technical guys want to be technical. So let's just leave them to deal with a lot of ad hoc like taskings. They will help them pick up the pace and see how things goes from the technical side. So that's what we arranged. And then for me, we know very well, Bing and I know very well that we are the 2 guys who would deliver the technical product quickly. So we know, okay, an indexer's job is to listen to the chain and to parse and simplify these transactional data sets and push them into an off-chain store. So we made it very simple. By the way, we have never been data engineers before, so we just figured it out. Okay, you know what? Let's just use Postgres. Postgres is great. So we just started doing that. We got Postgres up. We wrote the index in Rust. So we picked up Rust in about 10 days. And then what else did we do? Oh, we also built a front end. So the front end is just a simple GraphQL interface that allows you to query the database via a GraphQL endpoint. That's it. So Bing built the Apollo, the GraphQL side, Apollo QL, and then I built the indexer side. So what we did take away from this entire hackathon was, yeah, we know what's the deal with Solana, man. So we started the indexer I think on the 4th day, and then we started ingesting the data, and then we were like, why is our comp crashing? And we figured out that Solana has extremely high throughputs, like really high throughputs, and we underestimated it. So back then, I think in 2021, were there Apple Silicon yet? No, I think it was just Intel Max.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think it was just Intel.
Right. So yeah, Intel Max sucked real bad at indexing. So I can't even emphasize that enough. So yeah, we did take away a lot. Like we learned that like ingesting and writing ETL pipelines for high throughput chains is going to be a huge ass undertaking. So we have to be very careful. And what drove us to build moving forward was, firstly, we won the network prize. It's a categorical prize, by the way. So it's 10 grand. And back then, when we participated in other hackathons, Bing and I, like for the past couple of years, the prizes were like a couple of $100. We were like, holy shit, we won a 10K prize. That's crazy. So we were thinking like, maybe we should talk to the foundation. Maybe we can like, figure things out and see how we can bring this further. And funny to say this, Colleen, who's still in the Solana Foundation, and Tom, who has left the foundation, both of them came to us and said, before us heading to them, are you guys interested in building this forward? And we're like, yeah, we're down for that. And we're so grateful because we got noticed by the foundation guys. So that's exactly like how the motivation came about. And another motivation that came about was just the people. People really do matter a lot. And for us, like all of us were really young, and we really do have nothing to lose until today. So we're thinking, you know what, let's just build this further and see how things go. So yeah, that's how things materialized.
That's awesome.
At that point, was Foundation trying to encourage you to build the Explorer, or was it mainly focused on the indexing? Because like you said, there's so much data to process on the Solana blockchain. Like trying to ingest that data, that's a different technical feat than I think also being able to get data from some other source, whether it's something you guys maintain yourselves or someone else maintains, and then actually displaying that in like a usable, good, friendly, explorable way. Like is that the point where you kind of pivoted from the primarily like indexer based to explorer based like direction?
So actually the answer is pretty simple, which is experience. Bing and I are the only ones who have experience on the engineering side, like externally prior to this project. So it made a lot of sense that we shouldn't build something like that. So you have GraphQL and then you have indexer infrastructure. If you want to scale this outbound, you got to be exactly like Dune. You got to be exactly like Flipside. And back then, I think Flipside did not exist yet in Solana. So I think we were probably the first guys in the space to build a GraphQL tool. What made us pull the trigger to build the GraphQL site is just solely based on the foundation's needs. We heard there's a voice. We heard from the foundation that there's a need for that. We built that out. We tested the product outbound towards the ecosystem, and the response wasn't really positive. So it's more of like, users will come back in, try querying, and get the data for free. So we were very proud. We actually got really excited when like a shit ton of like users said, "Hey Nick, can we like just use your APIs and then just serve it as our data source? We could just tag and hotlink you guys back to your site." And we're like, "Sure, holy shit, it's a great honor, it's a great pleasure." And then things went on for like that for like 5-6 months, and we decided like, oh wait, this is like unsustainable. Like we're gonna get grant, like we got a grant from the foundation, and it's not a big grant, but it's a grant enough for us to keep operating for a couple of months. And we figured that it's not going to end up well because we didn't find a way to monetize it. So we decided, I think we need to take a step back, look into things in greater detail and clarity, and figure out that maybe it's just not the right time. So we figured, you know what, it's more feasible for us to build a tool that's extremely actionable, extremely relatable, and has already been battle tested in the ecosystem for the past 10 years. So that's why we made a shift to Explorers.
What is, generally speaking, what is the business model of an Explorer?
Yeah, I was going to ask that exact question.
Oh boy, it's actually extremely boring. So the business model of Explorers is actually plain simple. You have ads that generally cover and generate a lot of revenue, and which is not the case for SolanaFM right now, for now. And then you also have API tooling at the back. So let's say, Nick, you're interested in maybe getting some APIs that the Explorer is capable of producing. Like viewing all historical transactions, viewing all historical transfers, viewing or deconstructing accounts or a specific transaction into a much more human readable format, right? So we do serve those APIs, and if you are kind of interested in those kind of APIs, then we serve them as a turnkey solution for you. So those are the two streams of revenue for now for Explorers in general. That includes Etherscan, SoulScan, and probably us for now. But yeah, we're looking to change that.
Okay. That's kind of what I assumed it was going to be.
Can you talk about the looking to change that at all, or is that
what's coming in the pipeline?
TBD?
Holy crap! Okay, that's an extremely good question. Very difficult question. I might get shot at this, but I'm just going to say this. I don't know yet. So, right, that sucks, right? So I know very clearly that the existing business model is something that we wouldn't want to do. It's boring. It works. It's probably something we may have to do soon. It's probably something that we might have to do all the way, but we'll try our best to stay away from it if we can. The reason why we want to do this is...
Stay away from it, you mean like stay away from ads?
Stay away from ads. I think for tooling, I think it's fine because tooling is always essential, right? It's never bad to share and distribute tooling towards other ecosystem users. But I think
so just to be super clear, you're basically saying we're fine continuing to monetize the tooling that we've built. We would rather not monetize through ads.
Yeah,
that's what I'm hearing.
So the plain simple reason is because noise. I think we can do that, but is it worth the pain for the users right now? Like, is the Explorer introducing enough user pain point solutions for now? My answer to myself would be no. So until then, I wouldn't turn on the ads. So that's the reason why. And I think another thing that's really missing in the Explorer space is over the past half a decade or more, the business model is actually boring, right, guys? Like, the UI is also very boring. And I think it's time for a change. And that's why for us, we pulled the trigger to head down there. It's actually pretty weird. Like, why would a data exploration tool turn into like an Explorer? Like, aren't they the same but different? So Explorers are extremely micro, and data analytics tools are kind of macro because you get to query against the entire data set. But for Explorers, it's just you grab an account, grab a transaction, grab a block, grab a validator, and then that's it. So I think for us, it's more of like going down towards the building blocks and just focusing on what matters now. So yeah, that's root. That's actually the root of like our passion. Oh, that's what you're thinking.
I guess I'm trying to understand. Like, are you saying that you want to move away from the micro to more broad analytics, or I guess I'm trying to understand that last statement.
Oh, no, definitely not. So we will stay where we are. So big data set tools like Flipside, Dune, Nansen, they can stay where they are. But what we want to do is we want to focus on finding synergy and harmony between micro and macro tools in the data side. So I think maybe the thing about things a bit further or deeper down in the line would be, let's take a look. A transaction is just an encoded data set, right? Like, it's not a data set, it's a datum. So that's easy for us because our focus is actually pretty simple. How can we bring encoded data into a human or developer readable format? Then for the big data side, the problem is how do we make the entire data set more nourished? How do we make it more queryable? How do we extract more alpha out of it? That will be a huge problem for those guys. But you still have the bottom line problem, which is I'm storing a huge data set of transactions and all these transactions are encoded. How can I decode them without modifying the entire existing data set that's encoded? Very simple. You have us. So I think for us, it's more finding synergies like that and then work things out that way. So that's why I pointed that out.
Got it.
So you're basically trying to take like the existing data set that you have that is effectively like the history of the Solana blockchain, and you're trying to figure out more cohesive and usable ways to actually get actionable and like useful information out of it, aside from here's a transaction, a list of accounts, some like effectively random raw data, but like making it so it's more consumable, where you can have like in aggregate all this data together, you get actual usable information out of it in aggregate. That's like the gist.
I think the best two products in retail or in non-crypto life would definitely be Google and Google Translate. So Google search, pretty much simply put, the search bar in our Explorer, and then you have translate, which practically allows us to showcase like, okay, we can translate transactions and we can translate accounts. I think maybe James, I'm not sure, man. It's as I explain things further, it's going to get even more boring because everything is just getting the sticks and shovels out for everyone. Like, okay, like I need to get as much transactions as possible through our parsers. So that's our goal. And then another goal would be, how can we make sure that we can historically traverse back in time? Like, how can I find out, like, okay, Nick's account, it's like, it has like maybe this data back in 2022, right? What about the data changes now? Like, can I have a historical timeline of how the data is changing inside Nick's account? That would be pretty cool. So I think for us, it's more of a focus on these things. Right? That's actually alpha. but yeah, so yeah, it's just I'm not sure about why I'm like that, but boring things like that really do fascinate my mind. Like, yeah, like,
I mean, that's one of the beautiful things about like infra is it's very boring, but it's needed for anyone else to build useful things on top of. Like, you need infra, you need data to build like a good application. And then you need like the whole like good user experience UI side of it, but you need the backend infra to actually be able to provide information in a usable format to your users, and like being able to get like good aggregate data information out of a large data set is like it's a timeless problem that will never go away, no matter what your data source is.
Exactly.
Well, this is super interesting because I think there are a lot of people, there are a lot of crypto users who maybe aren't devs, who don't understand, like they look at an Explorer and they probably don't understand everything that goes into it. They probably don't understand the amount of infrastructure that you and your team have had to build in order to make this website work. They take for granted that it's just a website when in reality, it's just like so much foundation,
ton of infra behind it,
right? So that brings me to a question, which is like, is all of your infra in-house? Have you built like how much of
what's
your
the tech stack of Solana.fm?
Like
how does it work
versus what are you using external stuff?
So it's actually pretty sad to say this, but I'm actually very excited to say this as well, which is the existing Solana.fm Explorer. It's like 90% open source Explorer and then like 10% APIs. That's completely gonna get it's been demolished basically. So what's changing today is we now have 60% of the entire Explorer powered by our APIs and then 40% powered by RPC. So, oh my god, I can't wait to show that. So the returns that you get from that is like, by the way, everything is almost in-house. The only thing that's not in-house is usually like just RPC infrastructure. We do have a couple of in-house bare metal RPCs that we self-host, but that's probably it. So yeah, that's basically it. I can go down deeper into like the exact details of what the APIs do, but maybe there's a follow-up later on.
What I'm curious, like why do you even have an RPC if it's a small portion? Is it just because you wanted to experiment with spinning up an RPC, a couple bare metal RPCs, or were you exploring being an RPC provider for others? What's the logic there, I guess?
So the logic there is actually just a couple of things. The first thing is that we want a fast way to listen to the gossip. We want a fast way to track validator stats. So right now, live on production, you don't have a validator page on FM, but it's gonna come out soon. So that's one feature that we have. Another thing that we want to do is we want to understand like Okay, so these are how validators work. We also have a testnet server, by the way, like a testnet validator. So the reason why we're running these things is because we truly want to find out. Okay, so this is a set of activation stake. You need vote credits. Your vote credits would have to be extremely consistent over a couple of epochs, so that you can figure out how you can gain more stake and delegation from. Is it called Stake-O-Matic? Yeah, probably it. So
Stake-O-Matic.
Yep. So you have all these tools that's provided by the foundation. So it's just more of us just grinding things down and just physically trying to like experience it, understand how things work, and then build on top of it. So that will be the reasons why we run our own bare metal validators. But just want to be very clear, it's not like 10, 20 machines, it's just 2 machines.
Yeah. Cool. So what, I mean, as a current users of Solana FM, what can they expect over the next 2 to 6 months from Solana FM and its sort of progress and evolution?
Oh my God, I'm so tempted to share my screen. Oh, I gotta do this. Yeah, I should do this.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah,
come on,
I
Nick.
think that's what could
One
go
Nick
wrong.
to another. Like, come on.
All right. Let's go. All right. So
Yeah, buddy.
Oh, and we have screen share.
so it's nothing impressive. But yeah. So we completely redesigned the entire dashboard. So you will no longer see coming soon when we go to production. So there'll be 0 widgets that are coming soon.
Okay.
So the first thing is that, let's say you're a nerd. I'll call myself a nerd.
We're all nerds here.
Yeah.
If you do remember the first couple of hashes, like couple of characters of your account hash, you can probably search it. So let's say mine's Nix9. So I can immediately find Nix9 without. Yeah, it's just fuzzy. It's kind of like fuzzy file finding. So we have predictive, prescriptive, and suggestive search. So that's first thing.
That's cool.
Yep, and then what's next is that for transactions, we have heard a couple of user complaints about, I can't tell what the action of the transaction is. Can you do that for me? And then I said, sure. So what we do is from now on, you can find out what the transaction is without actually viewing the transaction.
That's pretty cool. So you're
super convenient.
For listeners, he's sort of showing a chart of transactions here, and one of the columns says action basically, and it'll list what that transaction is doing. So this one, for example, says NFT delist. So delisting an NFT. Presumably, you're finding ways to categorize transactions and surface what that transaction is actually doing, right? So there's one here that says soul transfer. That's great. How do you do that for like complex transactions with multiple, maybe even unrelated instructions? So
over the next couple of weeks, we're going to continue depending on manual parsing, but in time to come, this parsing strategy would be completely abstracted. So I think what differentiates us from the rest is that we tend to focus less on parsing now. So let's say we have encoded transactions, right? We break it down to 3 things: native programs, Rust generated IDLs. So you can generate IDLs with your own Rust programs, right? You have Kinobi, you have Shank, and then you also have anchor based IDLs. So all of these can allow us to parse transactions on the fly. And that's actually not the focus. So the focus is actually on translation. We've been working on tabletizing the entire translation layer on our site. So what we want to do eventually is we want to build enough of translation support, maybe like 50 programs, maybe 70, who knows, right? Support a big amount of transactions first with the translation layer, and then push it over to a large language model. So the goal is to bring the entire thing towards AI and then get something going from there. So that's yeah, that's the entire ball game.
So okay. So this is cool. You're basically saying you can hard code certain transactions and like their types, and then use that in conjunction with like an LLM to then start to generate what you think the actions are. Is that something a user could then go back and correct? Like say, hey, that wasn't exactly the right thing. Can I update this with what it actually was?
Make correction suggestions to the LLM of, here's what I think it should have been, just in case it was incorrect. That'd be cool. Feature request.
That's pretty crazy. So what we're worried about there is that if training becomes unsupervised and it becomes decentralized, I think it becomes very dangerous, because after all, the positioning of explorers actually seem to be very trivial, but we realized that it's actually the last source of truth. Not sure why, but if all of your data points fail, like let's say wallets fail to view your transactions for whatever reason, users would tend to depend on the explorer for them to validate said transaction. So I think for us, we probably would have to tone down a little bit on decentralizing control in generating data sets. So maybe eventually we'll do that, but not for the very short run.
That's fair. Maybe
I think
I'll revise the feature request then. The ability to flag a transaction to say that it's like it was interpreted incorrectly, and then like some manual interaction to go from there.
Oh my goodness, you're actually unlocking so many holes or goals. So actually prior to Breakpoint this year, the general focuses would be things that you didn't mention, right? Getting everything optimized, getting loading of transactions up to speed, getting parsing translation up to speed, getting traversals of transactions up to speed. Traveling back in time is actually a pain in the ass in Explorers and Solana today. I might be able to say a couple of other chains as well, but let's not get there, right? So those are the things that we want to fix prior to Breakpoint. So the day before Breakpoint, you could expect us to be a usable explorer, an explorer that's sizably similar to an Etherscan and is sizably useful, so that the naysayers wouldn't probably say otherwise. So I think that's the current goal. But moving forward, I think Nick, you really pointed out something great, which is to answer James as well. The goal for the explorer in the ultimate end is to turn it into a social tool. So in Google, we've seen things work where you search for results and the algorithm remembers you. It channels said algorithm to probably YouTube. So if you search for, let's say, watches, you're going to end up having a shit ton of ads with watches. If you're going to search for chocolates, you're probably going to have a shit ton of ads for chocolates. We're not going to do that, of course. But what we want to do is, we want to do it in such a way where we can decentralize the control in how data is going to be generated for each personal user. So let's say, James, in one fine day when accounts exist in SolanaFM, you sign into your account, you lock in your account there. Every time you view or explore an account, you can tag or label the account. People who follow your account can then get the labels and tags you did, and probably be able to understand further about what the account is, like how user perception is regarding those accounts, or how people perceive maybe a set of transactions. So that's the goal. Like we want to bring the social mechanisms, from things like right now it's like Frenzy and what else? Friendtag. I don't think that's the end. I also don't think that's gonna kickstart, like they're gonna moon all the way high. I would say there's something greater at play. We got to build something that's very utilitarian, something very useful, something very important for day-to-day life. And I think Explorers position in a very good position to do that.
Yeah, I completely agree. I use Explorers all the time.
Every day.
I use an Explorer probably more than I use my wallet, because every time I use my wallet, I end up looking at an Explorer after the fact, sending an Explorer link to to whoever I just sent something to, that kind of thing. But then I also look at the Explorer sometimes without interacting with the wallet. So I might use an Explorer more than I use my wallet. That may not be true when we factor in like using a wallet for developer related things where I'm just like sending test transactions and stuff. But for regular use, that I think that's probably accurate. But anyway, Nicholas, this has been awesome. I love that you just shared your screen and showed us.
Thank you so much for sharing
this. That's super sick.
I have more though.
You got we're running out of time and you got more to show. All right, do it.
So this is a transaction. So transactions now, we completely shifted focus to retails. So you're gonna see a header that's gonna be very easy. So I think it's right for me to do this, right, James? Like it's good for me to narrate this because some podcast listeners would just listen, they wouldn't watch because they're probably on the move. And it's good to narrate.
Well, this is the shameless plug. Like, if you're only listening, you got to watch the video. Link in the description.
Jump on the YouTube.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Yeah, don't forget, man. It's extremely important to follow them.
Shameless plug complete.
Yeah, but yeah. So we've taken a lot of attention to detail. So the detail that we have here is that we want to make it easy for retail users, but we also want to make it intuitive for developers. So, for example, when a transaction fails, we want to tell you what fails very quickly. So very quickly, you'll be able to see exactly why the transaction has failed, like slippage tolerance exceeded. For example, this Jupe swap. And you can see how much is being swapped, and you can see how much the tolerance was. And we've also refined the entire transaction flow in a sense
I love that flow chart. That's amazing. There's a flow chart here that's like showing the entirety
classic
of the transaction
Solana
and what
FM flow.
happened inside of it. It's great.
So this is still a work in progress. We still don't have the best of what we want to do yet, but in the next week or so, we're gonna see something greater here. So this is probably the biggest change we've made, which is combining edges, connections between nodes and making them more intuitive. Because if you have too many edges and too many connections, it's going to be too confusing to the user. So yeah, that's another thing that we factored in. And of course, not forgetting devs, we've taken a huge focus on, really getting instructions shown correctly, getting them shown intuitively so that devs wouldn't have to worry too much about reading and understanding instructions. And by the way, we do cover events as well.
Amazing.
This is amazing.
Yeah, jumping into the we're looking at the list of instructions for a transaction now for those who aren't watching, and we're able to expand it and look at events that were sent in each instruction. It looks like, which is awesome.
That's wicked.
So this is for Jupe, and Jupe is parsed. So you can also see which instructions specifically failed. I really wish that we could show the error on the inner instruction side though. Imagine if you could track the error down to the CPI.
Don't we all? Unfortunately, CPI doesn't quite support that.
Yeah, that's mad.
Fix
mad.
It.
Oh yeah, I'll add it to my to-do list.
Yeah, you should.
Shameless plug, runtime v2.
Oh boy, and this UI is still bugged, but we're gonna ship out the validator table and dashboard, and we're gonna showcase the Nakamoto coefficient of Solana against two other chains, and
nice.
then in general, it's just pretty general stuff for validator tooling and data sets. And I think the most important thing for devs, I think you guys are devs yourself, so I think this is something that I'm very passionate about, which is the inspector. I think this inspector is like, I like to use this phrase. It's like a wolf in sheep's clothing, because it looks like the same, right? It doesn't look any different from the open source Explorer, but if you were to like paste a base 64, why is it telling me it's okay? So if you do paste a base 64 string, and if it parses the message, you would actually be able to deconstruct, decode anchor-based programs and any program that has IDLs supported. So that's what we've been doing or working on so far for
That's awesome.
dev tooling. Of course, it's not rendering yet. I don't know why, but probably a bug. Yeah, things are very bare bones.
On the fly demonstrations tend to go that direction.
Yeah.
Well, sweet. I know. Nick Frosty has got to get to something, so we're gonna have to wrap this up. But Nicholas, thank you so much for chatting with us. I would love to do this again if you're happy to jump on some other time and chat some more.
Pleasure.
I feel like you have a lot to share.
For sure.
And you guys are building a lot of really cool stuff. So we'd love to chat more.
Too much, really too much.
You got any last minute plugs, Nicholas? Before anything you want to shill before we hop off?
Actually, not much. I think on behalf of the team, just stand by for the next version of the Explorer. It's going to be crazy. Sick. But I think aside from that, not really. I think it's just more focused on my hosts, because I think both of you guys are extremely fantastic and important people in the space. And I've already asked a provocative question to James. I need to do the same for Nick. So Nick, what's up and coming on your own personal work, like your own professional work on the foundation side? What's up and coming? What's big?
Oh my goodness, a lot of big things. I'll go with the easy one that I can actually talk about publicly. Breakpoint. I'm wearing my Breakpoint sweater. This episode's going to go live just before Breakpoint, which I'll do a shameless plug for Solana FM as well. Like, this episode should be live on like mid-October. So check out Solana FM and explore the new Solana FM. Hopefully it's out by then. But Breakpoint's going to be amazing. I've seen the speaker list and the talks that are going to be going on at Breakpoint. Like, I'm so sad that I'm not going, and I'm very jealous.
Way.
Yeah. But Breakpoint's going to be fun. I'm going to be sitting at home watching it remotely though.
Why?
It just doesn't line up with the life schedule.
No, James.
Also a no for me.
Maybe James and I'll do like some live episodes.
I just tweeted about this the other day.
Live commentary.
I've got three kids whose favorite holiday is Halloween. If I left for Halloween, that would be like, I mean, I don't know, like for some people that'd be like leaving on Christmas or like, whatever people's favorite holidays are. So the fact that it falls over Halloween is a bit of a bummer for me.
Oh no. But quick question though.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about Nick, but just want to confirm, are kids the most craziest, most rewarding thing you've gotten in your life?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
It is. Look, the thing I always tell people is like, kids, the day-to-day of hanging with kids is sometimes really challenging, but there is absolutely no doubt that I would do it all over again in a heartbeat. Right.
Yeah,
like
same.
Like it is incredibly rewarding. I don't even know why. There's something like deep and instinctive about it. I don't know that I could fully explain it, but incredibly rewarding. I love being a dad.
Wow. Can't wait.
On that note, there's the episode. James loves being a dad. All right. Well,
that's the final shill. Have kids.
Yeah.
All right.
Not financial advice.
Not fun. Absolutely not. It's terrible financial advice. But right, well, it is what it is.
Thanks again, Nick, for joining us on this episode.
Thanks, guys.
Really looking forward to actually experiencing the new Solana FM. It's going to be great.
I want a new podcast next week.
To the listeners,
sure,
we'll see you all next time. See you guys.
Bye. See you guys.